Welcome to Recap World. Today we are recapping a movie in which a dutiful damsel agrees to marry a handsome prince, only to find the royal family has recruited her as a sacrifice to repay an ancient debt. The film opens with soldiers marching towards a mountain, their path interrupted by the sudden appearance of a dragon soaring through the sky. Determined, they venture into a cavern nestled beneath the mountain's shadow with their king leading the way. As they cautiously explore, the king spots the dragon in the distance, prompting preparations for a battle. The dragon unleashes its fiery breath, decimating the front line of soldiers and swiftly dispatching those guarding the king. Witnessing the devastation, the king lays down his sword, conceding defeat to the mighty beast. In a shift of time, centuries later, we find Princess Elodie and her younger sister Floria braving the wintry landscape in search of firewood. Spotting a carriage headed towards the castle, Elodie decides to return as well. Upon her arrival, she enters her father's chambers to find him conversing with a red priestess. The priestess hands a sealed letter to her father. The king peruses the contents and reveals to Elodie that Queen Isabel has proposed a marriage alliance between Elodie and her son, Henry. The king's entourage sets sail for the kingdom of Aurea. Their journey is veiled by a dense fog, but upon emerging, they find themselves in the realm of Aurea. Guided by the royal carriage, Lord Bayford and his family are escorted to the castle. The servants escort Elodie to her chambers, where upon stepping onto the balcony, she catches sight of a girl in another tower. The following day, Elodie is introduced to Queen Isabel and her son, Prince Henry. Subsequently, Elodie and Henry slip away for a private conversation. Meanwhile, within the castle, Isabel exits a room following a discussion with Lord Bayford, leaving Lady Bayford curious. When Lady Bayford inquires, Lord Bayford remains silent, prompting her to seek answers from Isabel. However, Isabel responds curtly and dismissively before departing. Turning to Elodie, Lady Bayford implores her not to wed Henry, but Elodie remains resolute in her decision. The following morning, servants assist Elodie in preparing for her wedding, adorning her with a blunt dagger and a large pendant containing perfume. Lord Bayford escorts Elodie to the stage, where she and Henry exchange rings, formalizing their marriage. Queen Isabel then crowns her as princess. Lord and Lady Bayford bid their farewells, and Henry escorts Elodie away in a grand royal carriage. As they journey, Henry informs Elodie that they're headed to a ceremony to honor their ancestors at the mountain. Upon arrival, Elodie grows apprehensive upon seeing masked individuals gathering for the ceremony. The Red Priestess presents Elodie with a coin and guides her to the ceremony, recounting the legend of a formidable beast that once plagued the island they now inhabit. According to the tale, upon their arrival, the king endeavored to vanquish the beast but was unsuccessful. In a bid for peace, the beast demanded the sacrifice of the king's 3 daughters. Subsequently, the priestess cuts both Henry's and Elodie's hands, mingling their blood as a symbol of their royal lineage. Following this ritual, she instructs Elodie to cast the coin into the chasm, a gesture which Elodie faithfully executes. Henry embraces Elodie before leading her across the bridge, and as they reach its midpoint, he tosses her into the chasm below. Elodie screams as she plummets and her fall briefly halted by branches she strikes before landing at the base. Upon awakening, she calls out for help, but her cries go unanswered. Unaware of her fate, a slumbering dragon awakens within the cave, stirred by her distress. Despite her attempts to climb, Elodie finds herself trapped. Surveying ornaments in her surroundings, she realizes she's been offered as a sacrifice to the dragon. Suddenly, a glimmer of light and distant sounds emanate from the cave, catching her attention. She follows the sound and light, discovering a bird engulfed in flames. Hurriedly, she extinguishes the fire, but is soon alarmed as more birds begin to suffer the same fate, falling from the sky. To shield herself, she instinctively ducks down, only to rise and find herself face to face with a breathing dragon behind her. With a surge of panic, she flees from the dragon's fiery breath, seeking refuge within a nearby cave. As she explores, she encounters a dead end, where she finds the lifeless body of a girl she had previously glimpsed in the castle tower. Navigating through a narrow gap in the cave, she reaches another compartment, sustaining minor burns along the way. Swiftly, she retrieves her dagger and tears a piece of her dress, using it to bandage her scorched skin. Utilizing her pendant, she ignites the perfume inside, creating a makeshift lamp to light her path. With determination, she searches for an escape route, discovering a narrow passage. As she crawls through, she unexpectedly falls into another chamber, where her makeshift lamp flickers and dies out. While she presses forward, suddenly, a glimmer catches her attention on the cave roof. As Elodie strives to reach the glowing object, she stumbles upon a trench. Desperate to cross to the other side, she rushes forward and attempts a leap, but begins to slip into the trench. She grasps her dagger and uses it to climb out. Examining the glowing objects, Elodie discovers they are worms, which she gathers in a cloth and utilizes as a makeshift lamp. Beside the worms, she finds ice and quenches her thirst with the melting water. However, her respite is short-lived as the dragon detects her presence and spews flames in her direction. Barely escaping the inferno, Elodie flees into a narrow cave for safety. In a new chamber, Elodie discovers ancient writings on the walls left behind by previous sacrificed princesses who had reached this point. Exhausted, she succumbs to sleep only to awaken and find glowworms adhering to her once burning wounds. As she removes them, she realizes her injuries are miraculously healed. Examining the chamber further, she uncovers a map of the cave system, revealing a potential escape route. Using the glowworms, she navigates through the labyrinthine caves until she locates the exit tunnel. She stumbles upon an old crown, which she uses to climb the tunnel. As Elodie ascends the tunnel, the dragon observes her struggles from below. Despite the daunting climb, Elodie eventually reaches the summit, only to discover it's merely an opening high in the mountain. While she sits and weeps, suddenly, she spots a group of horses approaching the mountain and cries out for help. However, just then, the dragon arrives. And as the dragon prepares to unleash its flames, it hears someone calling Elodie's name and abruptly departs to investigate. To Elodie's relief, it's Lord Bayford who descends into the cave, calling out for her. Descending back down the tunnel, Elodie hears her father's voice and follows it, leading her to a heartbreaking discovery of bodies of 3 young dragons. Understanding that the king caused their deaths, she grasps why the dragon demands 3 children from each king thereafter. As Lord Bayford and his soldiers search for Elodie, the dragon suddenly strikes, claiming the life of one of the soldiers. Another soldier meets a similar fate in front of Lord Bayford. Lord Bayford confronts the dragon, but he is overpowered and captured, leaving Elodie to witness the scene from her hiding place. The dragon demands that Lord Bayford summon Elodie from hiding, but he defies the dragon, urging Elodie to stay concealed. Enraged, the dragon inflicts excruciating pain on Lord Bayford by driving its nails into his chest, causing Elodie to cry out in anguish. Hearing her cry, the dragon starts searching for her, but is distracted by the sound of the king's guide and starts pursuing him. Seizing the opportunity, Elodie bids a tearful farewell to her father and starts climbing the rope to escape the cave. The dragon pursues the guide, killing him, then notices Elodie climbing the rope and moves to intercept her. Despite the dragon's attacks, Elodie narrowly escapes the cavern by climbing the rope to safety. Taking a horse, Elodie flees, but as she notices the dragon approaching, she abandons the horse and seeks refuge behind some stones. Enraged by Elodie's disappearance, the dragon incinerates the horse and unleashes fire on the clouds. Witnessing the inferno, Isabel seizes Floria and takes her into custody. The following day, as the dragon retreats to its cave, Elodie emerges from hiding and encounters Lady Bayford on horseback. Lady Bayford informs Elodie of Isabel's actions regarding Floria. Determined to rescue her sister, Elodie takes the horse and sets off. Isabel brings Floria to the same chasm, mixing her royal blood with Floria's before casting her into the depths from the bridge. Elodie arrives at the bridge, calling out for Floria. Hearing her sister's cries, Elodie descends into the chasm, but finds that the dragon has already taken her. Determined to rescue her sister, Elodie ventures into the caves and gathers glowing worms and creates a makeshift distraction for the dragon. As the dragon is distracted by Elodie's ploy, Elodie sneaks toward where Floria is held captive. Seizing the opportunity, Elodie retrieves Floria and flees with her to safety. The dragon realizes it has been deceived and returns to find Floria missing. Elodie bravely confronts the dragon, insisting that she is not Isabel's daughter, but the dragon disregards her words and spews fire in her direction, causing her to tumble into the water. Elodie manages to swim back to shore, where Floria tosses her a sword. As Elodie rushes to retrieve it, the dragon seizes her, but she quickly brandishes her knife and thrusts it into the dragon's eye. Then, she seizes the sword and charges at the creature, driving the blade deep into its chest. Enraged, the dragon flings Elodie away. Elodie noticed a wall where the wind reflected, drawing her towards it. She stood before it and boldly requested the dragon to unleash its fiery breath upon her. As flames erupted, she swiftly dodged, causing them to rebound onto the dragon, scorching her instead. Writhing in agony, the dragon collapsed. Elodie seized a sword and approached the fallen creature, revealing the mark where she had sensed royal blood. Despite the dragon's plea, Elodie refused to end her life, instead retrieving glowing worms from the water and applying them to the dragon, thus initiating its healing process. Meanwhile, at the castle, Henry was in the midst of marrying a new princess when Elodie abruptly intervened, urging the princess and other guests to flee. Despite her warnings, they remained unmoved. Shortly after, the dragon appeared atop the castle's roof. Elodie swiftly departed the scene as the dragon unleashed its fiery wrath, engulfing the king, queen, prince, and the castle itself in flames. The towers crumbled as Elodie calmly crossed a bridge, distancing herself from the destruction. Ultimately, she embarked on a ship, accompanied by the dragon, sailing back to her own kingdom.